Have you ever noticed that the harder you try to hold everything together, the heavier things start to feel? The more you overthink, plan, analyze, prepare, manage everybody's emotions, try to avoid mistakes, all of those things, the more resistance you seem to run into. Maybe the question isn't, what am I doing wrong? Maybe the question should be, what if all this control is actually the thing pulling me further and further away from myself? Welcome to the Courage to Become podcast. This is the podcast for people who are ready to understand themselves more deeply, to reconnect with their own inner energy, and to stop living from fear, pressure, and survival mode. I'm Joe, and today we're talking about something that I think so many of us quietly struggle with. The things happening inside our own minds that stop us from truly living. Those are things like overthinking, fears, the need to control, the pressure to get everything right. And we're going to talk about how understanding your human design can completely change the way you see yourself, your life, and the lessons that you're here to learn. Because maybe the goal isn't about controlling life. Maybe the goal is learning how to trust yourself within it. One of the biggest things that I've realized on my own journey is that the mind believes control creates safety. It thinks if I can predict everything, prepare for everything, avoid discomfort, manage everyone around me, then maybe I can protect myself from pain. But what actually happens is we become exhausted because life was never designed to be fully controlled. And honestly, how often do you feel pushback when you try? The resistance, the heaviness, the frustration, the emotional exhaustion. And maybe instead of seeing that resistance as failure, what if that's information? What if it's showing you this isn't aligned? This isn't yours to carry. This isn't the direction that we want to be moving in. And honestly, this is something I know very deeply from my own life. For a long time, I thought control was keeping me safe. I thought if I stayed prepared, if I thought through every possible outcome, if I said the right thing, if I handled things the right way, if I stayed emotionally guarded, I'm good at that, then maybe I could avoid being hurt. But what I haven't or I didn't realize at the time was that I wasn't actually living in the moment. I was living ahead of the moment, constantly preparing for the next thing, the next conversation, the next possible problem, the next thing I should say or do. And because of that, I never fully relaxed into life. My walls were so high that even when I was physically present with people, energetically, I was still protecting myself, still scanning, still bracing, still managing. And people can feel that energy, not because they're judging us, but because energy speaks before words do. And when someone is deeply guarded, overthinking, or trying to control every interaction, it creates a distance without them even realizing it. And I think a lot of us do this without even understanding why. There's usually a reason. There's conditioning, there's past experiences, there's pain, past pain, there's disappointment, there's fear. And sometimes it's even connected to the way that we're energetically wired. Because when you don't understand your energy, you can't fully understand why you react the way you do, why certain things affect you so deeply, why some environments exhaust you, or why you feel safer controlling than trusting. And that's why understanding yourself matters so much. Not so you can fix yourself, but so you can stop fighting who you are. Just be. This is one of the reasons I love human design so much because it changes the question from what's wrong with me to how am I actually designed to move through life? And that changes everything. Because so many of us are trying to operate against our own natural energy. We're trying to force, we're trying to push, we're trying to prove, we're trying to make life happen through pressure. But our design is actually asking us to listen, to respond, to wait, to trust, to discern, to rest, and to receive. Generators and manifesting generators are taught to initiate constantly, go after it, make it happen, push harder. But their energy is actually designed to respond to life. And when you force things to happen from the mind instead of responding from your body, life often pushes back. And that frustration that you feel, it's not failure, it's feedback. Let's look at an example. And this is typical for generators and manifesting generators. Have you ever said yes to something because it looked good at the time, or you thought at the time, yeah, that sounds good, or because you thought you should, because it made sense logically to you? But inside, something didn't feel right, something felt heavy. And then afterwards, everything about it felt difficult. It felt hard. It felt painful. That's the kind of resistance I'm talking about. That's feedback. Projectors often feel pressure to prove themselves, to work harder, to do more, to earn recognition. But their energy was never designed for constant output. They're designed to guide energy. And when they force themselves into constant doing, their body eventually says no more. And that bitterness they feel, it's often grief from not truly being seen. I think a lot of projectors spend years trying to earn this acknowledgement from people who were never fully capable of recognizing them in the first place. And that's not a fault, it's just the way the energy is designed. You can't force it. Manifestors are often conditioned to make everyone feel comfortable before themselves. They feel the need to explain everything, to shrink themselves, to ask permission. But their energy is designed to initiate, to start that movement. And when you suppress that natural impulse, anger starts to build. Not because you're bad, but because your energy wants that freedom. For a lot of manifestors, there's a lifetime pattern of hearing, you're too much, you're intimidating, you need to slow down. So eventually they disconnect themselves from their natural power because they feel like that's what they need to do. They feel like that's how they'll be accepted. Reflectors often spend their lives wondering, who am I really? Because their energy reflects their environment so deeply. And when they're in the wrong spaces, they might think something's wrong with them. But sometimes it's just the room, the people, the environment, not your worth. A reflector can walk into an environment and feel completely light, inspired, connected, and walk into another and suddenly feel exhausted, anxious, and disconnected from who they are. That sensitivity is not weakness, it's information. I want to say something really important here. This doesn't mean that painful things are good. Some experiences hurt deeply. Some things that happen are incredibly hard to understand and to accept. But even within painful experiences, there is often lessons that shape us. There's awareness, there's compassion, There are boundaries. There's self-worth. There's discernment. There's resilience. And human design can help us to understand where those lessons tend to live for us. Because your design shows you where you're designed to be conditioned, where you absorb pressure, where you seek worth, where you lose yourself, where you're learning to trust. And when you begin to see your life through that lens, something softens. Instead of thinking, why is this happening to me? You start asking yourself, what might this be trying to teach me about myself? For example, somebody with an undefined will center might spend years trying to prove their worth through achievement, overgiving, constantly doing things for other people, not because they're broken, but because they're here to learn that worth is not something earned through exhaustion. Someone with an open emotional solar plexus might spend years absorbing everyone else's emotions and thinking it's their responsibility to fix everything and keep the peace. Until life eventually teaches them you are allowed to feel deeply without carrying everything yourself. Here's the interesting thing. We actually don't have much, if any, control over life itself. We don't control other people, timing, circumstances, outcomes, and that can feel really scary at first. But what we do have power over is our awareness, our perspective, our presence, choices, the way we respond. And that's where our power lives, not in controlling the external world, but in learning how to work with your own unique energy instead of against it. I want to invite you into something here just for a moment. And I want you to ask yourself, where in your life are you gripping too tightly? What are you trying to control? Is there some kind of an outcome? Do you need something to go exactly the way you imagine it? Do you struggle when life redirects you somewhere that you didn't expect to be? Are you trying to control a relationship? Do you need someone to behave a certain way in order to make you feel safe? Do you become anxious when somebody pulls away and changes or starts acting differently? I've experienced that one myself, but from the other side, I had a boyfriend in my younger years who tried to tell me who I could and could not spend my time with. And at the time, I allowed it. Not because I was weak, but because there was a lesson for me to learn there, a lesson around my own worth, my own boundaries, my own self-trust, and learning that love doesn't require that kind of control. Or maybe that control shows up in how people see you. This one is huge for so many people, wanting to be liked, wanting to be understood and accepted, seen in a certain way. And I was the same way. But I'll tell you what it is that changed everything for me when I really understood it. This is the secret. The way other people see you is often a reflection of themselves. Their perceptions come through their wounds, their experiences, their conditioning, their beliefs, just like yours do. And when you truly understand that, you stop trying so hard to manage everyone else's perception of you because you realize you don't have that ability. You were never meant to carry that responsibility. And this is also a helpful hint when going through this journey because what you see in other people is actually a reflection of you. And the role of that is to show you where within yourself you might want to work on. You might feel more comfortable looking deeper into. Or for you, maybe control shows up around the future. And yeah, we do. We plan, we have a dream, we have goals that we're working towards. But there's a difference between aligned action and trying to manipulate life into happening a certain way. And honestly, I laugh at myself now because I can even see this in my own story. I'm with my husband because I basically stalked him. Yep. I figured out where he hung out. I showed up there and I inserted myself into his world. And at the time, I thought, well, this is just a strategic move. This is how I'm going to get myself in front of him. But now what I can see is that I was trying to control timing. And human design has taught me that I can forgive myself for that because we don't know what we don't know. But timing is divine. And when we force things before they're aligned, it impacts everything. Because life is energy, it has its own intelligence, its own unfolding. And this world is actually designed to work with you. Your lessons will unfold exactly as they're meant to. The relationships, the redirections, the pain, the growth, the awakenings. Not because life is punishing you, but because your soul is learning through experience. And when you begin to understand your energy, you become more equipped to answer the call, to recognize this resistance is showing me something, or this pattern is asking for awareness, or this experience is somehow shaping me. Not every lesson feels good, but every lesson can deepen you. This is the part I wish more people understood about human design. It's not about putting yourself into a little box. It's about seeing yourself with more compassion, more understanding, more grace. Because once you understand your design, you begin realizing maybe you were never too sensitive to begin with. Maybe you were just deeply perceptive. Maybe you weren't too emotional. Maybe you were carrying emotions that were never yours to hold. Maybe you were never too much. Maybe you simply learned to shrink in environments that couldn't fully hold your energy. And when you begin to see yourself through compassion instead of criticism, your entire relationship with yourself begins to change. Human design doesn't take your power away, it gives it back because it helps you to stop fighting yourself and start working with yourself. Maybe the goal was never to control life. Maybe the goal was to become more conscious within it, to notice, to trust, to soften, to learn, to grow. And maybe the resistance that you've been fighting has been trying to lead you somewhere all along. So I want you to ask yourself, where might life be asking you to loosen your grip? Just let things happen the way they're supposed to. Because sometimes the moment that we stop trying to control everything is the moment we finally begin to live. If you resonated with any part of this conversation, or if something inside of you feels deeply intrigued by it, I truly believe that that is your soul trying to get your attention. That inner pull matters. So if this episode spoke to you, I would love for you to like, comment, subscribe, and share it with someone you love. Because the more we share conversations like this, the more we help people feel seen, understood, and less alone in what they're experiencing. And that matters deeply to me. This is my soul's work. If this conversation resonated with you and you'd like to explore your own patterns of conditioning or your own energetic patterns, your human design, I'd love to connect with you. I do offer free coffee chats where we can jump on a call and see where your energy or what your energy may be saying to you, where it might be out of alignment, and what support could look like moving forward. No pressure, just clarity and conversation. And you can find the link for that in the show notes. All right, everybody. I'll see you next time.